5 Pinterest dupes for you as part of the Duping Through the Holidays playlist series. This is the last week, people, so you're not going to want to miss these creators and you're not going to want to skip these dupes. Today, we're getting started with this gorgeous rustic ladder I found on Pinterest. And people, if I'm being really honest, I didn't just find one, I found 2 ladders that really inspired me for this project. These are some Dollar General yard stakes. They are roughly about 3 foot and they only cost $1. Well, they cost $1 when I purchased them last summer. They might be $7.99 now, who knows? We're going to cut the very end off of these pieces and then I'm just measuring them to make sure that they are the exact same size. Because knowing me, if I don't do this part, I'll have one really long side and then one that's not really long. Next, I'm measuring the width. So this way, when I cut the 3rd yard stake, I get 4 even pieces. And I cut them around 10 inches. I will tell you, you will actually need 4 yard stakes for this. I happen to have an extra piece because I use these all the time in my projects. So I only cut the 3rd yard stake into 3 sections and then I had 1 extra piece about the size that I needed and just trim that up. Here I'm just measuring to make sure the entire ladder is the exact width apart from top to bottom. And then I'm taking some wood glue in the spaces that I put the little steps. And these I spaced roughly about 8 inches apart from the other one. To make sure these are really attached, we're gonna bring in our nail gun. I just wanted to take a minute and show you the one that I use. I have a lot of people always ask what I'm using. This is the one that I'm using. I'm a big Ryobi fan. Hey Ryobi, don't forget about the girl over here. One day they're going to notice me, people. One day. If you're scared of nail guns, then don't do this part. Just take some clamps and clamp down on each section and wait 24 hours. You should be good to go. The wood glue should hold this in place. Don't go stepping on it though. Don't be using it as a real ladder, okay? To be safe, I let this dry in my house because it was cold, people, okay? It was cold. I let this dry in my house for 24 hours. Use whatever stain you want. I'm using Antique Waverly Wax. It's one of my favorites. I always like the end finish of this. And I let it dry for about 30 minutes. And then I'm just taking a dry brush and going over this with a little bit of white chalk paint. I rarely keep pieces I make anymore, but this is going to be staying in my house. I love how this looks in the corner and starting my Christmas decorating with it. If I was better at the greenery and the florals, I would have put a nice big piece on the side like they had in one of the Pinterest pictures, but instead I just put some down at the bottom with some more decorations. For our next decor piece, you guys are not going to believe me, but we're not cutting wood for this. I know, calm down. Listen, I had a bunch of these laying around. Last year, Dollar Tree had these little triangle pieces, and I had the backings because I hoard everything. Okay, stop judging me. I know some of you do it too. And we're going to just attach a little piece on here for a stand. Now, if you want to use wood for these, absolutely go right ahead. You will get the same exact result. I'm taking some paper I had from Hobby Lobby, and I traced the tree on here, or the triangle. I traced the triangle on here and I'm gonna just rip right inside of where I have the trace marks. If you want to use a napkin for this, you go right ahead. I would recommend painting your piece at that point so this way your napkin shows up. I wanted to keep the brown around the edges, so I did not touch this. I did continue ripping this as I went along before I started to decoupage this on here. I wanted to make sure it was exactly the size I was happy with before I applied the piece. Because I'm keeping the piece brown, I did not want to have a bunch of Mod Podge all over this. And the only way to get an exact application is to just paint the paper. And you're going to get one shot at that when you're doing something like this. So you're going to want to make sure that you have all of your Mod Podge spread out on here evenly, not overly excessive, because you don't want it smooshing out of your paper and then getting on the wood. At that point, you'll probably have to go over and paint it. Like I said, I wanted to keep this completely neutral. I didn't want to touch the piece, and that was just the look I was going for. You guys do whatever makes you fuzzy inside. And I didn't use any fancy tools or anything to apply the piece. I just used my finger and rubbed it around. Like I said, I wasn't trying to actually have any of the Mod Podge come popping out the side. I did not want to get it on the piece. For the ribbon, I'm just taking some of this pretty vintage lace looking ribbon I picked up from Dollar Tree, tying a little bow. I did end up gluing this down just to keep it in its place because it's triangle, so it's kind of riding up to the top as I went. So I just glued it down and added a little bit of greenery. This was just a random little piece I had tossed in my stuff. I said I was a hoarder, right? Okay, listen, you never know when things like this are gonna come in handy. But I absolutely love how this final result came out. Super simple. And like I said, if you wanted to paint the piece and you wanted to do a napkin, this would still work out just fine. I think this is one of my favorite pieces I've ever found on Pinterest. Now, mine's going to be a little bit different, of course. We're going to use these smaller pieces I picked up in a bag from Hobby Lobby on one of my browsing trips. Are you guys hanging out with me on my browsing channel? Because if not, you're missing out on things like this. And I got these on sale. Okay, moving on. A while back, I used one of these. This is a wood burning marker, okay? I used one of these and I tested it with actual wood burner. The results of this were pretty impressive. So instead of possibly burning my house down or losing an eye from heat burn, I decided to use this instead of my wood burner. And people, I was extremely skeptical about this. Even though I had really good results with the marker, I used that on regular wood. I didn't use it on like little log pieces like this. So I was nervous, but I had hopes. But I was extremely nervous to use the wood burner because, as you can see, it looks like the bark is kind of moving. I was scared that that wood burner would actually catch these on fire and start burning. I know you guys would love to see that and how I react to that, but not in today's show. All right. Next, we're going to bring in the heat gun. So when you're happy with your design, you're just going to use a heat gun, regular old little heat gun. That's all we're doing here. I purchased this joint on Amazon and the marker on Amazon. I think the marker is linked down below in my Amazon store. And I can't stress how simple this is, people. Now, if you have a stencil, use a stencil if you're not really good at drawing. Honestly, mine was not the best here either. I just wanted to give you guys the option of freehanding it if you wanted to. But honestly, if you have stencils and you want to color them in, it will work the same. This marker actually does not bleed that bad. Now, on this piece of wood, and the other one where I make the Y, as you can see, some of the little pieces of bark were kind of shedding off. And that became a little bit of a pain. It didn't take me a whole lot of time to do this project, roughly about 30 minutes. But that was me kind of going back over and filling in and trying to get the bits that were consistently getting on the marker off the marker from the wood. Once this little piece was done and I had the O done, I was like, these kind of look a little plain. So I went back and looked at the Pinterest piece and noticed the O had some decorations on it. So I just decided to add in some on the top here. And of course, these bits, they were such a pain. And I did not have this issue at all using the product on wood itself, just this because the wood was just frying off here, the bark, whatever you guys want to call it. I really love these pieces and how they turned out. I honestly have another idea for them coming up in the spring. I plan on doing, hopefully I can remember to do it. I gotta put it on my list of things to create. The Pinterest picture had some red ribbon around the bottom of all three of them. It also had them sitting inside of candle holders. I decided to just leave mine standalone, and I didn't have any of a matte color ribbon. I just had the shiny red ribbon and added it to the bottom of the J and the Y. And I really like how these pieces turned out. If you are just joining us for the Duping Through the Holidays playlist series, this is the last week in the series. Welcome. Each week we have been doing different dupes and different creators, different inspiration with a different giveaway. You still have a chance to catch up and be entered to win all 4 of the $60 Amazon gift cards. All the winners are not going to be announced till December 1st. All you have to do is check out each one of the creators' videos and respond to their giveaway questions. You only want one chance to win and you want to do that for this week, then make sure you check out the ladies I am duping with this week for Pinterest. And here is my giveaway question for this week. I feel like here recently there has been a DIY in every video that makes me want to quit YouTube. Well, this one. Welcome. This one did. So here we go. This is the end of a plunger I had laying around in my stash, and I thought this would be a nice dowel. It's not a skinny one, you know, it's a bigger one because I didn't want to create an ornament. I wanted to create an actual decorative piece. First mistake. Okay, first mistake, which means we're going to have to use more ribbon or bows or fabric because I am horrible at using all those things. If you are not familiar with me, hi, my name is Brandi. I am bow fabric challenge. Ribbon challenge, like it is not my forte. So I took some fabric and ribbon, I cut strips, and then I started tying it. Okay, this is my first mistake. I was just tying it with no rhyme or reason and couldn't wrap my head around why my ribbon was like backwards. I'm like, this don't look right. It doesn't make sense. So here I go. See how it's backwards? You can see where my fingers are. I was not happy with it. All the colors were on the opposite side, so I took it all off. I'm like, we're going to start this again. And then we're going to put the strips the opposite way. So I put them backwards. And then I was careful with how I started pulling them through the little pieces. So this way they were actually facing me and not facing the back of our little dowel. So what I thought was going to be a 5-minute project took me 3 days because y'all don't even know, like, I did not want to, these pieces were ripping on me. I do not recommend using ribbon. Definitely, if you're going to use ribbon, don't use Dollar Tree ribbon, use higher quality ribbon and use fabric. This was a pain. At one point, Wes came down to check on me and he was like, how you doing? And the ribbon just snapped and he just started laughing. I was like, I'm going to rip my hair out. It's like, it shouldn't be this difficult. So yeah, not a full 3 days, but I would try and work on it 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and stuff would just keep happening. So I was like, forget this project. I got other things to do. And off it went. So once I finally got to this point, I was like, oh, I did not want to cut these too short because if I did and I had to start wrapping more ribbon, I knew y'all were going to see me toss this tray in the trash. So I went very carefully, gingerly, as my daughter would say, very gingerly down the sides of the tree, cutting this at an angle. And it was going pretty good, okay, until I realized, like, this thing was floppy. So scared to death I was going to screw this up even more, I just started hacking at the sides. I was like, I know it's not supposed to look like that. And I do have fabric spray stiffener somewhere, just don't know where it was. And like I said at the time, I was like, ooh, this project. But it started standing up on its own, people. I was like, oh, the shorter I cut it, the more it's actually turning out. And I started loving it. And I was like, this wasn't so bad. But yeah, it was. It was not bad. I glued a little star at the top with a bow to finish the piece off and attached it to a little round piece. And it really is an adorable decor piece. But I will never be making another one like this. People, were you worried I wasn't going to paint a tree this week? Because in case you were, I'm here to prove you wrong. We're painting another tree and it's the last one of the season. So I hope you guys love it. We're going to be using this tray to recreate this piece. The original was on like a tapestry or piece of fabric. We're going to take some of this Admiral Blue and some of this Ocean chalk paint. And we're going to even add a little dash of black in there and mix these up. Not thoroughly. We want it to have some different color variations. So as we go, our tray looks like a sky. And in case you're like, Brandi, why are you doing acrylic and chalk? I try to tell people, so chalk will give you a one coat, okay? Acrylic is not. And chalk doesn't always have the colors you want. Acrylic has more of a variety. So when I do that, I like to mix them, and it also helps me just getting that one coat. If you do acrylic only, you're going to probably have to do more than one. I'm taking this little stencil that I have from Dollar Tree. I cut it in little pieces because this looks like a snowflake to me. And I'm just going to put this on the corners of our tray. I was really going to leave the outside of the tray blank, but then I thought we just need to add a little bit of something to tie in the center to the outside. So I just added some additional little whimsical looking dots coming off of our snowflake. And I just did that on the very outside, not the side with the handles. I'm just using a dotting tool to accomplish this, and most packs of dotting tools, if you buy them by the pack like I do, they come in different sizes. So if you are not sure if your pressing application is going to give you different size dots as you go down, you can switch up the dotting tools. For this background where we're creating the snow, I would recommend using a toothbrush, smearing up some paint on it, and then flicking it with your finger. I did not want to get snow anywhere else on the tray but the background. So I'm using a dotting tool, this bottle cleaner, and a couple other various methods to just get some authentic looking snow on here. Then I'm finding the center of the tray and marking it because this is where we're going to put our tree stem. For the entire painted piece, this is the type of paintbrush I'm going to use. I'm starting with the snow at the very bottom, and this, because I'm using chalk paint, I am going to have to do several little strokes. I'm not thinning it out by any means. And again, I like using chalk paint when I'm doing certain things like this because acrylic will have me having to go over it. And because this is such a dark paint and I'm using a white, I only want to have a one-shot application.
Jingle bells ringing in my ear. Jingle bell, a sound that's oh so dear. Frosty the snowman is all around town. Watch out for reindeers are falling down. We stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney.
You can bring this down as far as you want. Because I'm doing it on a tray, I want it to still have some of those snow pieces at the bottom, so I stopped giving it a little bit more than a half an inch. I'm then using this random piece I had laying around to just create our tree stem. You can use a ruler, just anything straight really, to have that brush able to be pressed up against and give you a fairly straight line. And then I'm just adding a little bit of thickness at the very bottom of the tree. I will tell you that out of all the trees I have painted so far this season, this was definitely the easiest, maybe because I only used one color, but it was really easy to make. Overall, it took me about an hour to do this tray. I used a heat gun to get most of it dry in the process of switching the colors between the blue and the white. For the branch/leaves section that we're painting here, I just decided to go back and forth with the paintbrush. So you'll see me doing two different strokes. One from the out to in, and then from in to out. This is just giving the actual ends a little bit different look, and it's gonna bring more of a 3D appearance to your picture versus having the same paint stroke throughout all the levels. The original piece has some gaps in it. I did not want to do that for this just because it was on such a smaller scale, and honestly, you could use this decoratively. I am going to use the dishwasher safe Mod Podge as the sealer for this part, but I personally think it would just look better hung up on the wall. After I let this dry for about 15 minutes, I came back in with my Dixie Belle's gold gilding wax. If you have a gold paint, by all means, go right ahead and use that. This just happens to be what I have on hand in a gold color. And I'm using a dotting tool to apply this stuff, and I'm just literally kind of smearing it back and forth. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just trying to make it look like little blurs of gold balls. To add a little bit more depth on the piece, I did take some of this gold gilding wax, put it on my finger, and rub it all around the handles and the outside of the tray. So this way, if someone did want to hang it on the wall, it kind of gives you a little bit of a pop from the picture to the ends of basically where it's framed. And that's going to be it for today's video, people. I hope you enjoyed these Pinterest dupes. And that's also a wrap for duping through the holidays. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all the creators who have been helping me pull this off all month long. Thank you all so much. You're amazing. It is so awesome to be able to do this every single year and give back to the community, even though we've had some scammers going on, and I am sorry about that. Unfortunately, there are people out there in the world that do things like this, and I am super sorry for anyone that was affected during the Duping Through the Holidays playlist series. The winners will be announced December 1st. I did also post a question and answer thing on my community tab at the start of the month in case something like this happens, and I tried to put a little bit of information in every single video so that way people going through and enjoying the content had information available to them in case they were one of the people that unfortunately were targeted by these scammers. And last but certainly not least, thank all of you that stop by every single week and show the creators love in the DIY community. It is really nice for us to be able to get together and do stuff like this. It helps us grow as a community and be able to continue bringing you guys content that you enjoy and you love. But that is going to be it for today's video. As always, I appreciate all of you, and until next time, bye.